We'll start with public input. Brian, do we have anybody who signed up?
Hello.
Morning.
You guys are all doing well. A good few months. Sorry I haven't been around. Just wanted to speak on the behalf of the residents related to cobblestone. I see that you guys recently replied to the letter sent by the developer. You know, I think it's indicative of the methodology and the lack of concern for the community that this letter was sent by the developer, and basically saying, we don't care about concerns at the school, we don't care what the school thinks. I mean, I think, you know, when Mr. Palumbo was here once, he talked about how, you know, they wanted to make sure they did the right thing. And it just, I just feel like this letter shows that, you know, they don't want to be responsible for anything that would happen at the school. I think it's shameless, but I appreciate that you guys responded to it. I think it's also, you know, a shame that it's going to take so long, apparently, for them to respond, considering that the former president of the Builders Association is the person preparing the response. I mean, we know what they're going to say, right? I mean, if they have to be given the time, I mean, they could even choose not to do it, right? So no one can force them to do anything. But when the Niagara County Builders Association is basically writing the response, writing the draft environmental impact study, I think we can pretty much predict what it's going to say, right? So I guess my question is, when that response comes, and you know, smart money would be on it saying there's no impact. What is the process? Who is going to vet that and provide the town's response to that? And I guess I'll just ask that question.
One of the things that I would anticipate is that we would hire an independent engineering firm, probably none that have and shouldn't speak for the board, but I think it's likely that the recommendation would be for a completely independent engineering firm that does not have a current relationship with the town to review the drainage study, for one thing. We might also have a completely independent engineer review the traffic study. That's maybe not it, but the drainage, definitely, I think we would have an independent engineer. And then the board and with the town engineers would go through it and might very well find that some of the responses are inadequate and require further responses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the independent nature of that. I mean, again, you know, sometimes folks say to us, you know, you had a flooding issue, you're always going to have a flooding issue, and we get that. We've never come here and said, this flooding issue that exists, we want you to remedy that. We've never done that. All we're saying is that the changes that have been made in the local environment over the last 20, 30 years have made the problem so every year, well, every change that's been allowed, supposedly people study it and say, oh no, there'll be no impact or no significant impact. So now those changes that have happened and did provide significant impact have brought the situation to a critical level that can't tolerate virtually any change. So, you know, people talk about significant impact, and I'm saying that the things that have been done have already created a situation that can't be worsened. It would be intolerable. I think it would be, you know, beyond reproach for anyone to approve letting that happen. And the pictures tell the story. I mean, it's not like it's something fabricated, right? So, and anyhow, that was all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian?
Hi, good evening. I just wanted to bring something up, and that is, it seems like we're spending a lot of money on rework on our buildings. A recent example is the community center roof. An example from a while ago, a few years ago, was the floor in the youth center due to improper heating and cooling system being installed. Currently, one of the pillars on the outside of the community center has a crumbling concrete around the stanchion for a long time, probably since last summer. And I think it's a huge liability. People come in there and unload. A lot of them are senior citizens. They get dropped off. People are looking for some place to stand often if they're unstable. Stand there, knock another piece of that concrete off, hits their foot or something, they're gonna be injured. So my question is, with that said, whose responsibility is it to maintain the buildings? And if there's a flaw in the design or the construction, shouldn't the builder be held responsible? And if it's an issue of staffing, I think that we should hire somebody dedicated to just the buildings, doing things like small painting, snow removal off the roofs, cleaning the gutters, those kind of things, so that we don't have these expensive projects. I see in the minutes we're spending more money on the youth center as well. The other thing I just wanted to find out is what capital projects you guys have planned on the priority list, things such as the Lemke Road Bridge, and a couple meetings ago, Rich Donner mentioned that some of the pipes are like 60 years old, the water lines. Just wondering what the tickler list is, in addition to if we can hold contractors or whoever puts these buildings up, if there's, again, a flaw in the design or the construction, so we're not always doing all this rework that's expensive.
Well, you can within limits, but statute of limitations in New York State is 3 years for negligence, 6 years for contracts, a year for an intentional tort. So for most of those things, I think we're well past the statutory time.
But would having somebody that's specifically supposed to look at the roof, I mean, we all had snow this year. I know it was an exceptional year. But when the snow got bad, my husband's like, okay, we're going to have to shovel off the roof. We need to look at our property so we don't end up with these, funky projects because of odd things happening. I know it's odd that we had this much snow, but at the same point, we need to really be cognizant of these buildings, just because it seems to cost so much when something goes sideways. And I really believe you're all very fiscally responsible, but then we end up, again, going sideways on something that is preventable in terms of maintenance. So I just think, maybe we need a dedicated person.
We did actually make a change this year where we gave recreation. Recreation takes care of these buildings. And we gave them 2 guys who had been only summers and brought them on for winters so that they could do more, and they've done a lot more. This building has had an awful lot of maintenance done on it. They also repainted the youth center, and they did other things around all 3 of the buildings. That doesn't make up for design problems like we're running into over at the community center.
Wow.
It didn't really rear its ugly head severely until this year, and we have to make some changes there. Part of that is in the agenda for this evening.
Right.
Part of that we still have to look at. There's still other things we have to look at. If we get another year like this, it's going to be another big problem in the community center.
Well, we'll have to look at, I just think there's room to tighten our process to make sure we don't have to spend money on things that potentially could be avoidable, putting a point person on, looking at the roofs, looking at the gutters. That's
you
all.
mentioned Lemke Bridge. That's one of the things that's on tap for the drainage study. That'll be part of that. Is the piping in there, or is the suggested piping sufficient, or do we need to go larger? That will not be able to be built this year. There may have to be some remediation because it's got problems.
That's crackling.
But we probably won't be able to rebuild that bridge this year. It'll probably have to be budgeted, and it's probably not going to be an inexpensive project.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be pricey. It's old, but anyway. All right, thanks.
That's it, Brian? Anybody else on any subject? If not, then we'll move on. Kathy, for the record, 4 members are present. Councilman Gerbeck is out of town on business and will not be able to be here this evening. We do have a set of minutes, gentlemen, from April 20th. Does anybody wish to move those in for approval?
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Gil, second by Larry. Anything that anybody wishes to change or discuss? If not, then all in favor of approving these minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Vouchers, voucher number 2015-627 through 719. The total dollars are $165,203.25. I need a motion to pay these bills.
So move.
Moved by Randy, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Gil. Any bills anybody wishes to hold or discuss? If not, then all in favor of paying signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That's approved. We'll move to departments. Paul Sigmund on Highway. What's going on in Highway?
It's funny that you brought up the ones the road bridges. That was one of the questions I was going to have for you tonight, but I'll wait till after we're done with the drainage study before I bring that up.
Yeah, it's probably something we're going to have to be talking about at budget time to see where it fits into next year's budget. And then, but we have to know how much water needs to go through that bridge before we get there.
Right. One thing I did have is, we no longer accept hazardous materials to the highway department.
Correct.
We were able to get rid of most of the oil-based paints, stains, pesticides at North Tonawanda, or it's Niagara County's disposal, but it was held at North Tonawanda. They were fortunate enough they let us take it there. There are some more coming up, so if anybody has something in town, instead of dropping it off at our gate at night or on the weekend, there's one June 6th in Niagara Falls, August 15th in Lockport, and September 12th in Lewiston. Somebody went so far as to actually open our gates this past weekend, and there's 2 boxes of stuff in one of our leases in the back. Drive around it every day to see if somebody's doing it, and yeah, they're still doing it. So if somebody gets caught back there, they're not authorized to be back there, and I find dumping stuff, they will be charged for trespassing and dumping.
Yeah, there are private people that take these kinds of chemicals and paints, etc. There is one in Tonawanda called Hazman that's available anytime during business hours. They will take your material. They'll even come and pick it up if it's a large batch for a fee, of course. So if you have something, you got to get it out of the basement, and you can't wait till the next June, whatever it was. June.
If anybody wants to call the highway garage, Agnes keeps us right on her desk to make sure everybody knows, you know, let them know. I think there might be one posted out here on the bill or in front of your office.
Yep.
And
So-
they'll take it, you just have to call and make an appointment. It actually works out pretty good. You don't wait in the line. I believe you just pull right up, they take it off your car and it's done with it.
There's sometimes a line. So they were good enough to take some of the stuff that Wheatfield had stored up. Anything else for Paul?
Might not be a bad idea to get some security cameras. I think we informally have talked about it. I don't think we have any out there, but, you know, you catch one person one time, and I think it's going to deter the rest of them.
I just can't believe somebody has the gall to, I mean, the gates are, we don't lock them, we have them snapped because the fire departments come in and out of there to get their fuel. It locks in the middle of winter, they freeze up, and that's why we don't put locks on it. But I just can't believe somebody would have the gall to unhook the gate, open it, go back, drop off 2 boxes, and then drive back out. They locked the gate back up, that was the one nice thing they did.
Yeah.
I know you've had to kick out the landscaping companies this year, too.
Yes, the problem with the mulch, that's something I actually have to bring up to you guys.
Go ahead.
We have, I don't know if I'm gonna wait till later on for the motions or not, but I have one guy that's willing to come in and make mulch for me. I had one other trucking company that was interested, and they came back, they told me it'd be $250 a load, pay them to take it out. I have one company that's willing to come in for $3,100, grind the whole pile, and then they take half, plus I think it's $3,100. He was supposed to send me a contract before tonight, and he didn't get it to me in time.
That sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
We need to get rid of it. We had the fire last year. I don't want to have that pile laid back up and fight it all summer again.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody, you don't need a motion, you just need approval for payment of the $3,100.
I need approval.
Yeah, so you need approval for payment. I don't think you'll have any trouble getting that.
We are still out patching. I don't want to interrupt. We are still out patching, slow going to the top patch. And the cold patch, just throwing a whole drive over it. This is all rolled and all that. So we are a little slow going. Please have your patience with the chipper. They've been down all the town roads. There are some of the state roads that they haven't made yet. I had them in last Saturday. They worked half a day then, trying to catch up a little bit. I'm trying to keep them working if I can. I'll have them come in this Saturday again, try to do some of the main roads where they have a truck behind them to
Yeah, I had some people ask me, I was talking to Paul earlier, but when they're on the state roads, they need that follow truck. Because if they're on town roads, they're not as busy, but when they're on River Road or Lockport Road, some of those roads get pretty busy, and it's too dangerous for those guys to be out there without having a proper truck behind them to signal.
Even with a follow truck, either every year or every other year, we lose a mirror on a chip, or somebody will go by while they're out chipping and take the mirror right off the side of the truck.
Okay, anything else for Paul? Rich, water sewer?
Yeah, we did finally put a truck out on Auctions International. We took delivery of our new truck,
Hey,
and it'll be on there until May 15th. If anybody's interested in a truck, go on Auctions International, take a look at it, plenty of pictures, and make your bid on it.
okay.
Only driven to church on Sundays?
Driven local, I can say that much.
Never driven out of town.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Mike Rinaldi, Recreation? I see we have another Nerf fight coming up this week. Trouble is, I'm a little older than 15 years old, so I don't get to get in it. Bummer.
And for anybody who hasn't noticed, Mike's building a new park on the right-hand side of the teen center. He's got slides over there. They're installing swings right now, some kind of a ball game, sandbox, a new pavilion they're working on right now. And you're going to rent it out, right, Mike? If somebody has a birthday party or something they want to have on a weekend or something, it'll be a nice place.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Other Mike, building inspector.
Nothing new.
That building on the boulevard is coming down piece by piece?
They like that. They're reclaiming the environment.
Yeah,
Cool idea.
you know, there's, must be selling it off for,
But the timbers are still in pretty good shape, surprisingly. But, it's being reused.
they're gonna actually put the barn back together?
No, it's being sold and being reused for parts of it.
Gotcha.
So whatever, it's being reclaimed and used in another structure somewhere. But you see the house too, they've already gone through and taken care of the roof and cleaned up the property, and they're gonna repair that segment, so.
Nice.
At some point, it's supposed to be something like a nursery stock over there.
Very nice.
And how about the house on Ward Road that had all the junk? Did you get the proper assistance you needed to fill out the paperwork?
In fact, if you've seen recently the cleanup, and I think Bob noticed it too, that he's definitely moved forward the cleanup. It actually worked out well because we talked with his wife. That hit it home.
Yeah, Mike, I talked to our town prosecutors too, and they said if you need any type of help on, how to cite them or anything like that, they'll be more than willing to work with you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Arlene, what's going on with seniors?
Well, May is Senior Citizen Month. We're supposed to do something for the seniors, so we're having it's all about the flag, American flag. I have some flyers if anybody would like them. Friday, May 22nd, from 10:30 to 11:30. We're going to have a couple that come in and they tell the whole history of the American flag. From the time it was made, so I'll bring it to them. I've seen the presentation, it's very, very interesting. I learned a lot of stuff about the flag I never knew. So if anyone's interested, I have some flyers and you're welcome, public is welcome to come to the community center.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything for Arlene? Okay, then we'll move on to Wendell. Tim?
Thank you. We have just one item on our agenda this evening, and that is PIP applications for Phase 4 of the Timber Lakes subdivision. Excuse me. The developer, GT Homes, is ready to construct the next phase of their subdivision. It's Phase 4. We're actually a little bit out of order. We constructed Phase 5 a few years ago, and now we're constructing Phase 4. It's just the way the utilities lined up to do it out of sequence like that. This phase of the subdivision will provide all of our PIPs, pavement and curb, water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewers. And that would be for lots 80 through 83, 97 through 101, and 10 through 16, for a total of 16 single-family houses. In addition to the PIPs for Phase 4, the developer also wishes to install the rear yard drainage for one of the future phases, which is Phase 6. This is just on the other side of the creek in the southeast corner of the development.
Okay. Mr. DiMatteo, is there anything you wish to say about this before we proceed?
It's just, should be a standard, extension. We've successfully done 4 other phases there, without any issue. So, just extending with, the next 16 months.
16 months? And these are,
Straightforward, they're very, it's a very, easy phase to put in with sewer, water, nothing complicated at all. Just extending what's there.
okay, and you're going back to the creek on,
Yeah.
on the first road, whatever the first road is.
Nottingwood.
Are any of these gonna be have a problem with the gas line change that's happening there this year?
Not at all. Nothing, we're not even anywhere near that as far as the road working at it. It's to the rear, and those lots are so deep, they're 230 or 40 feet, so 50 or 60 foot each one. We don't even touch anyway.
Okay. And you are asking us to approve the applications to start the PIP process?
We've already submitted our
Okay. Does anybody wish to, make a motion to approve this evening?
I have one question. About a month ago, we made an addendum to the under drain piping. Is that included in this PIP? Or is this going with something that was,
We do have that as in our first condition, is that the PIP must be constructed to town standards. They'll be provided with the information on the recent under drain revision to the standard
Okay, I'm
specs.
sorry.
And actually, they've already submitted their submittals.
Okay, so I'll make that motion with
I'll
that.
second it.
Okay, moved by Randy, second by Gil. Anything further on the question? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, that's approved. You're all set.
That's all we have this evening, unless there's anything from the board.
Okay, anything for Tim? Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
I guess we'll then move on to regular motions, Bob?
All right, the first motion is from the highway superintendent, and that's to increase revenue line for CHIPS by $11,536.61 and increase the highway appropriation line general contractual by the same amount.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Larry, I heard. Anything on the question? Now, this is just additional funds coming from the state this year because of the excess winter?
I guess it was called the severe weather
Yeah.
increase.
So we're taking it, we're accepting it, and we're putting it over in this spot. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next is also from the highway superintendent, and that would be to advertise for 2 summer seasonal employees for the highway department.
So moved.
Moved by Gil, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Randy. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
The next motion we're going to hold, and then we're going to go into executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss resumes that we've received from at least 3 applicants. Next is from the Recreation Director to approve a bid from Swoger Construction to repair a community center for $8,850.
Okay, does anybody wish to make this motion?
Isn't this insurance, Mike, an insurance bid? It's something the town's not paying, the insurance company's paying for it.
What is actually being repaired, Mike?
Drywall, tiles, and paint.
from the,
Most of the cost is
is it from the leaks in the roof? Okay, does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Randy. Anything further on the question?
Kind of similar to the water damage from the winter. I know Judy Conti, our insurance person, was talking to some of the things that Rich Donner had with water pipes, and the insurance carriers from Texas, and they don't understand how water pipes can freeze. But I said, if I do is pick up the Niagara Gazette or anything, the city of Niagara Falls was devastated by frozen pipes. We were hit hard too, but it was just one of those years.
Hopefully the last one of those years. Anything further? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
There's a new state program that requires the town to show savings so that residents, property tax owners can get a property tax rebate. So this is a motion from the budget director to submit the efficiency plan for the town, reflecting savings from the institution of recycling totes for the property tax freeze rebate program.
I'll go ahead and move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gil. Basically, we have to be able to show that we're doing something different that proves better and saves money. And our recycling program was the first in the county, and we do believe that it suits the needs of this program. There's a substantial amount of money saved over time. And this should allow our residents to get it's not a big rebate, but any rebate's helpful.
Well, it's pretty significant. I mean, what Ed Mangold, our accountant, our budget director, put down, it looks like about $121,000 annual savings.
Yep.
So essentially, that product that used to go in your trash can and get put in the landfill isn't going in the landfill anymore, and it's doing two things. It's we're getting a little bit of benefit out of it from recycling, but we're not paying that tonnage. So that $120,000, I think most of that's all from the tonnage that we would have had to pay to put it in a landfill.
Right, exactly. I mean, we had recycling before, but by going to the larger totes, it made a big difference in the town. We're, I think, the second town in the county, number 2 in the county in terms of the amount collected per parcel. We're doing very well, and we are saving money. So it's all good. Anything further? All in favor of submitting this plan, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion's to amend the town's personnel policy in accordance with the revisions on the attached memorandum. They are for a couple of things. One, they are bringing the personnel policy and making it consistent with the union contract so that there's equivalence between the two documents, and there's also some Affordable Care Act compliance revisions that are also being made and actually are required to be made.
There's actually quite a bit in here being changed. Does anybody wish to move this in? I'll ask again, does anybody wish to move this in?
Question, maybe it'll just
Go ahead.
for a motion. I don't know. But on the comp time, do all the department heads understand that comp time at the end of the year? Is that correct, Bob?
Yeah.
Can you explain comp time?
Well, comp time had not been mentioned or formalized in the personnel manual, and in fact still isn't. However, in the union contract, as negotiated, we capped the amount of comp time that could be earned to 100 hours, and also provided that since it couldn't be carried over from one year to another, at the end of the year, employees would be paid for their unused comp time. Some of the comp time was getting sort of high and maybe even out of control, so it's now capped and does not carry over from year to year.
I just wanted to, I had a little concern that maybe we didn't have money in the budget, but I think we do. So most of the activity, it looked like, is all from the union workers. I say 90% of it or more?
I think that's accurate, yeah.
It's way over 90% in highway, sewer, water, and recreation. So when they get paid out at the end of the year, that amount, I mean, that's, someone's gonna have to compute it, but it's gonna have to come out of your overtime lines that you have in your budget.
Okay, anything further on the question?
We didn't have a motion.
We didn't have a
Somebody's
motion.
gotta make a motion.
Yeah, or not. Do we need more time?
I'm ready to go with it. I just wanted to make sure that the department has had a chance and to review it, and then we don't have any other questions. I don't wanna make another modification. If we have it already here tonight, might as well make the motion.
I do have questions.
Sir, I guess, in reference to that, I guess it wouldn't really matter whether we paid them, we weren't giving them comp time, their overtime. I would have already paid it out of that overtime budget.
Correct.
So whether they take it in January, past January, or they get it in December, I would have just been short in December instead of you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're gonna use it sometime during the course of that year. So,
I think the big hit you have this year in 2015, though, is some people carried over from 2014 comp time.
yes.
So the lump sum at the end of this year is a little greater than it would be normally. So 2016, the payout should be a lot less. But where you got a couple of people that carried over maybe 60 hours or 100 hours, I mean, they carried over a lot.
I don't believe that we let them get any higher than 100 though. I only let them carry 100 hours of contract.
Yeah, some of them, I don't know, I don't remember the numbers, but without that carryover,
Yeah,
the
that's what the union contract provides now. I'm not sure it didn't in the past, though.
Is it 80 now?
No, it's 100 hours.
Is it 100?
What I'm saying is if they had 60 coming from 2014 into 2015,
Yeah,
I don't believe they're allowed to gain another 100. I think they're allowed
No.
to gain another 40.
that's
right.
all.
That's correct.
Exactly, yeah, so the 100 limit is still there, so if
That's
they,
ceiling.
if they
Yeah.
start the year with 40, they gotta only have 60 more to earn.
Right.
That's right.
And believe it or not, it is a cost savings. I mean, because I can control when they're taking the comp days off, it's like vacation time. We would have paid out a lot more overtime this past winter if some guys wouldn't have taken the comp.
But at the end of the year, you'll be paying them out anyways.
Well, I think you'll see them using their days.
Yeah.
They had a rough winter, they bought some time off now.
There will also be at least one other revision within the relatively near future with respect to the Affordable Care Act. I don't think we've exactly figured that out yet, but we have to ensure that although we don't really have to come into compliance until 2016 because we're a small employer as defined in the Obamacare Act, we still have to, at least by then, we have to make sure that the plan is affordable and does not exceed a particular percentage of an employee's income, and we're working on the details of figuring out exactly how to do that. I hope we'll be able to do that in the next 2 to 4 weeks, but that will be another amendment. But I think we should move on what we have here because these are ready to go.
One more question, Bob, before I make the motion. So there isn't anything new in here. This is just regurgitating or reprinting what was already in the union contract and what we were already doing.
Mostly, it's also bringing a couple of things up to legal standards. There's some legal changes too, but nothing that really is problematic, I don't think.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Anything further on the question? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
All right, the next motion is to amend the union contract really to bring us into compliance with the Obamacare requirements with respect to waiting period for employee health insurance coverage.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Gil, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Randy. Anything further on this question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I will abstain. 3011. So that's approved.
Next is to hire summer seasonal for the recreational department, 4 people listed.
I'll go ahead and move there. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Larry. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion is to promote Glenn Ammerman to labor in the recreation department.
So moved.
Moved by Gil. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I guess we have 3 seconds. I think I heard Larry first. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion is to hire Brandon Mack as summer help in the water sewer department.
I'll go. Okay, Larry's got the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gil. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
All right, the next motion is to schedule a public hearing. I guess since we're doing stormwater at 7:15, we should do this at 7 o'clock on a proposed amendment to the zoning code regarding electronic message signs. We'll get this proposed amendment on the town website. I think it's worth I think it's worth getting input in. There's a couple of things that I think are fairly important. One, it does require dimming of the signs at night. It has a significant lower level at night, and it's measured by a unit called nits as designed from the roadway. It also permits electronic message signs to be had by church places of worship, emergency responders, and schools in any zoning district. Right now, these signs are only permitted in commercial zones, but for those particular uses, they would be permitted in any zoning district. And finally, and this is something I think that'll be worth talking about, the proposal would have a 1-minute interval of changing from message to message. I don't know if it's too high, too low, but it's worth talking about. That's why we're having a public hearing.
Has this gone through the planning board this time around?
I don't think so. No.
Should we hold our public hearing until we get something from the planning board? There's no reason to rush this, right?
There's no real reason to rush it. It is something that's worth talking about. I guess we should probably send it to the planning board. So we can hold that, or we could set it for the
next meeting. That gives them time off.
Yeah.
What's the first meeting in June, Kath?
No, Bob, you mentioned 1 minute between
Yes.
changing of messages?
Yeah.
But the proposed zoning code amendments, the sheet that proposed zoning, that means these are the proposed changes?
Yes.
Under section D.2, it says the minimum display time each method on the sign will be displayed for a minimum of 6 seconds.
Oh, that's the current. That's current. I think it's the proposal.
Okay, so this is, so this sheet isn't the proposed?
It should be. We'll fix it up. I may have sent you the wrong one. Anyway, this would be for June 8th at, I guess it could be 7:15 then.
June 8th, 7:15. Okay, so does anybody wish to make that motion for June 8th, 7:15 for the hearing? I'll go ahead and make the motion. Do we have a second? Strictly to have a hearing, guys.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Anything further on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved.
And that's it.
Okay, we probably want to still go into executive session when we're done. We can hold that off until after public input and board member items. So we'll go then into board member items. Councilman Helwig, anything?
Last Saturday was our Liberty Drive cleanup. The Tribune was there taking pictures. I took some pictures. Supervisor Cliff provided plenty of donuts. And it was actually a good turnout by the Cub Scouts. We had 3 Eagle Scouts for the first time ever. I think we've had maybe an eagle or 2 before, but never 3 eagles on the same street. And that was kind of unique. We also had 102nd Street to Williams Road on Colvin Extension picked up by a group of people from homeschooling, which was kind of good. I think Supervisor Cliff kind of coordinated that, so we had both areas in that one proximity of town that is getting dumped on. I mean, 102nd Street, 103rd Street, Colvin, and when the Love Canal happened, a lot of people moved out of there, so people see vacant property and right away they think it's a dumping grounds. So I think that's the 2nd year in a row we've cleaned up. Last year the Lions Club cleaned it up, Bob?
Correct. Well, we did 102nd Street last year. We did not do Colvin. Somebody else must have done that.
So why the sewer district provided the dumpster and why the dumpster was there, I think Bob wanted to make sure we were going to fill it up good. And I think you got 2 pickup truck loads off of Liberty Drive, and then, what, 1 off of Colvin?
Yeah, there was 20-something bags I picked up off the pole.
It's unbelievable. It was their 24th year doing that, and I think back about 12 years ago, Frontier Fire was robbed after bingo night, and their cash register was missing. Cub Scouts found it. So they do a good job of cleaning up everything. You just got to tell them not to touch stuff they're not supposed to touch. But they like finding dead animals, and it makes their day.
Anybody find your $50 bill this time?
Yeah, I know. Our Croning says, that's that same $50 bill you've lost for 20 years, Larry. It keeps them excited, thinking that they're going to find $50 someplace. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Gil?
Nothing.
Randy?
One quick question. Paul, are we still selling millings, or is anybody buying any millings from you?
We sold a couple loads in the last month, but no, it hasn't been,
Not really.
not as fast as I'd like to see them go.
Yeah, and back to the chips. If you would to get somebody in to chip, is there a big demand from the town to get those chips, or is everybody going to Russell's or wherever and getting a...
The mulch, once we started making mulch, nobody wanted the wood chips. Years ago, most people would take just the regular wood chips right out of our chipper. But once we started making mulch, you can't compare the two. It's the same mulch you would get from the nursery, basically.
Okay.
So now nobody really wants the wood chips, so I'm stuck with a big pile of wood chips and leaves that if we don't mulch it up and make that fancier looking stuff out of it,
Yeah.
nobody wants it.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Randy. I do have several things. First of all, this coming Thursday, Reverend Bob Heisner and Pastor Gamachet from St. Peter's are holding the Community Day of Prayer at noon over at the Community Center. Everybody is welcome. I have a new timeline given to me last week by DEC having to do with the Niagara Sanitation landfill. They're saying that they expect to finish the basic digging and the removal of material within a couple of weeks. They intend to backfill probably by the end of May. Then they have to restore and seed. They have to dig out part of the road and return it back to nature. And they expect to do that by the end of July, maybe mid-July. So maybe by mid-July, the Niagara Sanitation landfill work having to do with the Love Canal chemicals will be totally done. The nice thing for Wheatfield is all of this work, tremendous amount of work, is going on without cost to the town of Wheatfield. And it's getting rid of materials that never should have been brought here in the first place, but they were. So it's nice to know that it's gone and they're disposed of completely. DOT had a very nice session here in the community room last week. You can see the boards over here showing what's going to go on with the boulevard. It's about 2/3 to 3/4 of a mile going from Cy Road to the Burkholz Bridge, the one they just rebuilt. And they're basically putting a 5th lane and a turning lane at the corner where Old Falls comes into Niagara Falls Boulevard. They're going to straighten that corner out and make it a 90-degree corner. And those are the significant changes. There will be some minor changes in lateral drainage and a few other things that they're doing. But those are the two significant things, putting a 5th turn or a turning lane from Cy Road to the CSX Bridge, and putting a sidewalk. There will also be a sidewalk, so we'll have some more sidewalks to maintain this coming winter. Anybody that wants to see that, you can. Kathy upstairs has some brochures where you can comment. You have until, I think it's May 18th to comment. If you have something you would like to add, if you have something you want to bring to their attention, like get the rest of it done, this is a good time to do that. And those papers are available upstairs. I got a letter from the City of Tonawanda asking us to approve a support for a grant for their diving team for a side-scanning sonar. Apparently this is something that hangs off a boat and allows them to see a potential body or something else that they're looking for as they drive along the river. If we were to have an event up here, this is one of the teams that we might have to use, so I would recommend that we go ahead and give them a letter of support. It's actually for a grant. It's not going to come from us, but they're asking for a grant and they would like a letter of support. So I would like to make a motion then to approve their request for a side-scanning sonar from our board.
Second.
Moved in second. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved. I'll take care of getting that letter out. Speaking of letters, we got a nice letter from Art Pappas, the mayor of North Tonawanda, approving our request for support having to do with the Greenway Trail. In order for us to build the Greenway Trail, it's still very expensive at this point. Even though we got a $1.1 million grant, there's still another $600,000 or $700,000 to go just on the first section, the first phase. And we're going to be applying from the county for Greenway funds. We have no Greenway funds for the Greenway Trail. And we do have letters from, was it Niagara Falls and North Tonawanda?
Yeah, yes.
And the letter from...
No, the Niagara Wheatfield School District. Niagara Falls and Niagara Wheatfield.
And the letter from Art Pappas is in strong support of our going ahead with this project. So thanks very much to Art Pappas. And that's all I have. So we do have a meeting on May 18th. Looks like we have a 7:15 public information meeting on the annual stormwater report. That's our favorite 10 or 15 minutes of the year. At 7:30 we'll have our regular board meeting. And that's it for here. So we'll go back to public input. Is there anybody who wishes to say anything on any subject before the town? Yes, Julie.
About the efficiency plan, and the savings, would the, rebates go directly to the residents, or does that come to the town and then you, in essence?
It's similar to the rebates that have been coming out before, I believe. It's not Star. There's been a rebate the last couple of years going directly to residents who are in the right income levels. Basically, if you don't spend more than your 2% tax cap, residents get a rebate directly from the state right around October. This would be something similar to that.
How much are you expecting for people to
I don't know if it was, I don't think they actually specified a specific amount. I think it has to do with how much is saved by taxes. There's a couple of things that have to happen. Number one, we have to, first of all, follow the tax cap for the next 3 years. The school has to follow the tax cap. And then we have to go beyond the tax cap and actually have a tax savings of 1% in order to qualify. And we think we qualify based upon our recycling program, so that residents would get a small rebate. Yeah, as I said, I don't believe it's any large amount. I don't think it's specified. It depends on what the savings end up becoming.
You will never.
I don't think so. And it just happens to come just before election time, so strange that. Okay. So I think we are done here. If there, okay, Paul?
I just one question about that tax cap, you said after 3 years of staying within the 2%, and then a 1% decrease the fourth year.
I think it's 3 years. We have to be able to show that we anticipate a decrease of 1% for the next 3 years, in addition to the 2% tax cap savings.
I guess my question to this is, we're a growing town, and I know we're getting more tax space and all that, but it's a matter of more employees. You talk about a library, you talk about all this stuff, and how are we going to be able to cut taxes or even keep the same when we want to do all this other stuff?
It becomes an interesting problem. It becomes a conundrum that we have to deal with.
I mean, I just think about, we talk about the boulevard and why you get more sidewalks. That's more work. Sidewalks I gotta do.
Right. You're absolutely right, and it's a form of a mandate coming down from the state that if we want to take care of our residents, we have to take care of our residents. There's no library that's going to be shoved down anybody's throat. We're going to go through the process. We have to negotiate with North Tonawanda, and at some point in time, that will become one of the options available to us.
I was just using it as an example. I mean, I'm not against the library. I'm just saying, we are a growing town, so we are providing more services.
Correct.
And how do you keep providing more services when the state wants you to lower the tax?
One of the, yeah.
Bob's or Paul's thing there. What happens, you know, you mentioned, Supervisor, that if the school district and the town together has to be, right? How, are we joined at the hip for this 2%? What happens if we meet the 2% and plus 1, but the school district doesn't? Our residents don't get anything?
You don't get very much because the money that is sent out is the savings from the taxes.
So we
would
jointly
otherwise
have
be
to
there.
do this, it sounds like.
I think with the tax efficiency plan, it's a little bit different. I think they split it. And the efficiency plan is based primarily on the town's savings.
Okay.
It has to be approved by the controller's office, so we're not necessarily out of the woods, but we think we have a program that will work.
One of the things, and I guess it's kind of one of the things that the state thinks that they're going to accomplish, or I think is trying to accomplish with this carrot as part of the carrot and stick approach, is additional shared services. There have been some movement toward intermunicipal cooperation, and if that actually comes to fruition and there are savings, that would qualify. That's really what I think the state is trying to achieve. Whether we agree with it or not is a different thing, but I think that's what they're trying to push.
Yeah, they're looking for consolidation of school districts, they're looking for consolidation of libraries, they're looking for consolidation of other things that will save taxes. The feeling apparently is that big is better than small. I'm not convinced that that's true. You'll have a hard time convincing me that big is better than small, except in certain things. I think your largest school district in the area is probably the very worst. Your second largest is probably the second worst. Your small districts up along the lake here in Niagara County are actually very good, and your these Lutheran schools here in town and Catholic schools up in Niagara Falls are probably better than the public schools, so, at least in terms of results. So, big is not necessarily better. Okay, that's it for the meeting. Kathy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just, we have a few more openings on May 12th. The Niagara County Veterans Service Officer will be in Wheatfield. So it's for anybody that would like to learn about veterans benefits for themselves or any member of their family. There are several new benefits that are available, and we have about 3 spots open. It's May 12th. It's about an hour, 45-minute or an hour session throughout the day. So anybody that might be interested should call and schedule an appointment.
Great. Okay, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
And it would be town board, town attorney, town clerk, and water sewer superintendent.
Does anybody wish to make that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Gil.